The briefing room on Starbase Velis smelled of recycled oxygen and alien anxiety. 17 cadets sat in rows, Kethon with their triple-jointed fingers folded neatly, Vrillian students whose bioluminescent skin pulsed a calm amber, and one human. Mara Ellison sat in the third row, boots crossed at the ankle, a battered field notebook balanced on one knee. She had already filled 6 pages with sketches, measurements, and a margin note that read, "Thermal differential equals opportunity." Commander Zyrex stood at the front, 6 limbs folded in the posture his species used to project absolute authority. He was ancient by most standards, 4 centuries of stellar cartography, 3 wars, 2 galaxy-class catastrophes survived through sheer professional stubbornness. His scales had faded to the gray-silver of deep space rock, and his eyes, all 4 of them, had the flat, patient look of someone who had buried students before. He tapped the holographic display. Kareth 4 bloomed into the air above them. A Class 7 volcano world. Tidally locked, geologically violent, surface temperature ranging between 900 and 1,400 degrees Celsius. Sulfur dioxide storms that stripped ablative hull plating in under 6 minutes. Lava seas that swallowed standard surveyor drones whole. A planet that had been formally designated surveyor prohibited by the Galactic Academic Council after losing 11 drones, 2 remote units, and 1 very poorly timed manned research pod. "Your survival assessment," Commander Zyrex said, in the flat tone of a professor who already knew the answer, "is 0. 17 cadets nodded. The Vrillians pulsed a solemn violet. 1 cadet did not nod. Mara Ellison was writing. The assignment was theoretical, or was supposed to be. Design a hypothetical retrieval mission for the black box recorder of the lost research pod. It was a thought experiment, a stress simulation exercise, a way to see how cadets handled impossible problems. Most cadets designed increasingly elaborate escape plans. The Kethon produced a 16-page probability matrix concluding that no mission was viable. The top Vrillian student submitted a beautifully formatted report recommending the black box be formally abandoned and commemorated with a digital marker. Mara submitted 4 pages, handwritten, with diagrams in the margins. Commander Zyrex read it 3 times before calling her into his office. His office was sparse by choice. 1 desk. 1 window facing the dark. A single framed scan of a star system he had once mapped alone, which he never explained to anyone. "Cadet Ellison," he said, setting her pages down. "Walk me through this." She stood straight but not stiff, the posture, he had noticed, of someone who had spent time in environments where rigidity got you killed. She pointed at her first diagram. "The planet's thermal differential is predictable," she said. "It runs in 40-minute cycles tied to the tidal lock. There's a window, 11 minutes, where surface temperature at the northern pole drops to approximately 340 degrees. Still lethal for most materials." She paused. "Not for aerogel reinforced silica composite layered with ablative phase change membrane." Zyrex blinked 2 of his 4 eyes. "That material is used in re-entry shielding for Earth atmospheric vehicles. We've been wrapping our spacecraft in it since the 1970s. By your calendar, that's about 3 centuries ago." She said it without arrogance. "Just fact. I reconfigured the application. Instead of a heat shield for descent, I designed a full-surface thermal coat, think of it like an insulated suit. Mobile unit wears it. Goes in during the cold window. Retrieves the recorder. Comes out before the temperature climbs." The commander looked at her pages again. The diagrams were precise. The material specifications were real, he had already cross-referenced 2 of them on his terminal before she arrived. "The wind shear," he said. "The sulfur dioxide storms? The coat handles the chemical erosion. I borrowed the surface chemistry from deep-sea diving equipment. Humans have been building things that survive crushing, corrosive environments for a long time too. The storm windows are mapped in the appendix. Page 3. He turned to page 3. She had mapped the storm windows. Zyrex set the pages down very carefully. The way you set down something you have just realized is more valuable than it looks. Cadet, he said. Why a coat? She almost smiled. Because the planet isn't the enemy, Commander. It's just cold, in the cosmological sense. It doesn't want to kill anything. It just has a very different idea of comfortable. She shrugged. Humans have been dealing with environments that want to kill us for our entire history. Ice ages. Oceans. Deserts. Vacuum. We didn't conquer those environments. We just. She tapped the pages. We dressed for them. Commander Zyrex did not approve the mission that day. He spent 9 days stress testing her material calculations with the Academy's engineering lab. He assigned 2 senior researchers to find the flaw in her thermal cycling model. He ran her storm window mapping against 3 independent atmospheric datasets. He found no flaw. On the 10th day, he walked into the engineering bay where Mara Ellison was already, without authorization, without announcement, building the prototype. She had commandeered a maintenance bench, 3 rolls of aerogel composite, a thermal bonding press, and 2 junior engineers who had somehow agreed to help her at 0300 station time. The frame of a mobile retrieval unit sat in the center of the bench, and she was applying the coat layer by layer with the focused, unhurried attention of someone who had done difficult things with her hands before. Zyrex stood in the doorway for a long moment. You started without approval, he said. You were going to approve it, she said, not looking up. The math was right. I gave you time to check. You checked. Here you are. He realized, standing exactly where she had predicted he would stand. He entered the bay and looked at the unit's coat. The layers were even, precise, each thermal membrane seated cleanly against the one below it. She had added something at the joints, a flexible gel insert he didn't immediately recognize. What's that? He asked. Silicone. From Earth. We use it to seal everything, windows, engines, spacecraft hulls. Incredibly boring material. She pressed the final layer down. Incredibly effective. You just happen to have silicone composite available on a deep space academic station. I requisitioned it as general lab supply 3 weeks ago when I first read the Careth 4 file. She finally looked up. I may have planned ahead. For the first time in a very long time, Commander Zyrex did not have an immediate response. The retrieval mission launched on a Tuesday. The mobile unit, which the junior engineers had quietly named Mara's coat in the maintenance log, a fact she never acknowledged and clearly appreciated, entered Careth 4's atmosphere during the northern pole cold window. It moved through 340-degree air and sulfur dioxide winds with the slow, deliberate patience of something that had been designed to endure, not to outrun. The entire Academy watched the telemetry feed in silence. The unit reached the crash site at minute 7. The black box recorder was extracted at minute 9. The unit began its ascent at minute 10. It cleared the atmosphere at minute 13, 2 minutes into the rising temperature cycle. The outer layer of the coat showed thermal stress. The ablative membrane had partially degraded, exactly as Mara's calculations had predicted it would. The unit survived. The recorder was intact. In the observation room, the Vrillian cadets pulsed brilliant white, their species' expression of shock so complete it had become awe. The Kethon sat very still, recalculating. Commander Zyrex stood at the back of the room, arms folded, watching Mara Ellison watch the telemetry screen. She did not cheer. She did not look triumphant. She looked like someone checking her work, moving through the data with the same quiet focus she had given the prototype, confirming, noting, already thinking about what she would do differently next time. He had taught 4 centuries of cadets. He had watched brilliance before. He had watched courage. He had watched exceptional minds approach impossible problems and find extraordinary solutions. What he had not often seen, what he had almost stopped expecting to see was this. A species so accustomed to hostile environments, so ancient in the practice of surviving things that should not be survived, that they had stopped seeing impossibility as a wall. They saw it as a weather condition. Something to dress for. He would write his assessment that evening. He had already decided the grade before the mission launched. But the note he added at the bottom, the one not required by Academy protocol, the one he wrote for himself in his own language, said something simpler. The human did not ask the planet to be less dangerous. She asked herself to be more prepared. There is a difference. It is the size of the universe.